Okay, so in this video we're going to discuss how to clean your locomotive wheels without damaging your locomotive, much the way that I did when I first got into the hobby. So you'll notice in front of us we got a Woodland Scenics Tidy Track, and you don't need one of these to use this method. Instead, all you need is a piece of straight track that's powered either on your layout, your programming track, or perhaps even a 2x4 with some old track on there. You just need something that will power the locomotive and keep it straight. So with that said, before we get started, I need to show you how this works so you kind of understand what I'm doing. If we take a closer look at the Tidy Track here, let's get the camera to focus. There are two nickel silver rails built in, and that powers the wheels. And then the larger surface area of the wheels are supposed to rub against the sort of rough fabric here and clean the wheels. And in theory, this is great, but in practice, I find, sorry, let's get the focus fixed there for you. I find it just doesn't work that well. Come on, camera. It just doesn't work that well, and part of the reason is due to the fact that these don't sit high enough. And Woodland Scenics tried to address that by allowing this to be adjustable, but the locomotive ends up turning off most of the time. You've got delicate parts that can be damaged, and it doesn't work that well. But I do use it for power, and it is also great for steamers so that you can oil the wheels. With that said, what you're going to need is a source of power, a clean microfiber cloth, preferably one that you only use for your locomotives. This one is from Harbor Freight, gets the job done. You're going to need some 70% isopropyl and a pipette. And these guys you can pick up at a hobby store, Michael's, Hobby Lobby. They're pretty cheap and they're really useful on model railroads. So what I do is I take a little bit of rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol, and I run it down where I expect the wheels to be. And this doesn't have to be perfect. Now, you could probably do this without the isopropyl, but I do it with the isopropyl, and I've never had an issue. Although I'm sure somebody in the comments will probably tell me why there's problem with this, especially that Australian guy. There's an Australian guy that talks about cleaning your track, and he's against isopropyl alcohol in favor of something else, which I'm currently testing. That's for another video. Okay, so once you've got this ready, let me get the steamer since that looks a little cooler on camera. Hold on a second. Okay, so we've got ourselves a Spectrum steam locomotive here, and this has pickups in both the front wheels and the tender in the back. So I'm going to get my power cap here. We're going to see if we can find this Union Pacific 7009. Let's bear with me here. Okay, so we're going to gently increase the speed. I'm going to set this to, I run a 128 speed step, so go ahead and get this guy on here a little bit better. There we go. Actually, I'm going to do a speed step of 30. Okay, so what's happening here, in case you haven't figured it out already, is that the tender is picking up electricity from the back, and then that's allowing the wheels to turn. The wheels are essentially rubbing off of the microfiber cloth here. Now, again, you could do the same thing on a straight section of track that's unoccupied by anything else. So when I first started, when I first got into model railroading, I would look for used trains at an antique store, an old antique store, eBay, things like that. And I had one time picked up kind of a cool River Rossi diesel, and it ran horrible, but it was due to the fact that the wheels were dirty. So I flipped it over, grabbed some 100 grit sandpaper, went to town. I know I can hear, and I can feel you cringing through the video. The locomotive worked well, but what you might not realize is that actually takes off the silver coating that surrounds the wheels, and in the long run, you're ultimately going to damage the loco. I got lucky. It continued to run, but it's definitely something that I wouldn't do these days, especially with some of these locos being far more expensive than that one did. And so you can flip them over. You can use a little isopropyl on a Q-tip, but I find this is just the easiest way to do this. You put a little rubbing alcohol in your microfiber towel and let the loco run for 10 minutes and come back, and there you go. There's probably not going to be a lot of dirt coming off this guy because I cleaned all my locos about a week ago, but I find that it works really, really well. So if you have a diesel, there goes my pencil. I'm going to take this guy off, and oh, there was actually quite a bit of dirt on there. So we're going to move him back here so it's not damaged. You can already see, let me just bring this up to the camera here, that it was starting to take some dirt off. I just cleaned this guy too. So we're going to put that back on there. I can still feel the just a little bit of light isopropyl here. So if you have a diesel, we'll take this Santa Fe here. He's not going to be on the layout too much longer since I'm switching everything over to Union Pacific, but you just want to take the rear wheels, so there's some power, get him up and running, and let me just go find him on the power cab. 5184. There we go. Let's come on. And we'll go ahead and silence that. I just need to listen here for a second. Yep, wheels are moving. So you can see that the back wheels are being powered by the Tidy Track system, and the front wheels are just running on the microfiber cloth. And I'll just leave that there for 10-15 minutes, come back, and the wheels are usually shiny and new, like you just bought it. And it's a pretty easy and straightforward method. So just just a couple tips here. Don't use sandpaper, especially if you're new. I know some people have been around for a while would never do that. You can buy yourself a foam block, flip your locomotives upside down, and use a Q-tip to clean the wheels. And that's good if you have a particularly stubborn loco that just won't clean up. But the problem with that is you risk getting isopropyl alcohol onto your paint. And if you're using something like 90% isopropyl alcohol, that's basically going to be a what's the word? A solvent, and it's going to take the paint off. And again, just like my 100 grit sandpaper decision, I have done that in the past, and I have damaged the paint, especially on the older like River Rossi stuff. The paint comes off real easy. And so I find this is a pretty good way. If you don't have, again, a Tidy Track, just find some track, anything like this, obviously not a switch track, or grab, a piece of 3-foot flex track and just attach it onto a 2x4 or something like that, and you can essentially make your own Tidy Track. Since, to be quite honest, with all due respect to Woodland Scenics, I love their stuff. The Tidy Track just works okay. So hopefully you found this useful. No, it's not a very long video, but I figured I'd mention it while I was going to do a little bit of maintenance today, and hopefully this will be useful for you too. Thanks so much for watching. See you on the next video.